Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And as always, welcome back to our Around the Hearth discussions. This time, we will be discussing our final topic for March of the Mechs, which is mixing scales and themes. So mixing the two scales and themes together. We've done a little bit of touching on this all along the way. So go back and watch choosing a theme, choosing a scale, handling the scale and theme at the table, and then mixing that here. And we'll be here when you go and you get done. So there you go. All right. So before we get into it, let's get announcements out of the way. I will start us off as usual. I am Adam L. Spain with the I am Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads. I did not mess up on any of the previous three.
Well, Jacob's not here.
That's what it was.
That's true.
Jacob, you watching this back? See? Threw me off, man. Threw me off. Alright. I am Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads. And as far as announcements for me and the channel, the only thing we've got so far, at least as far as I know at this point in the future, or in the past, wibbly wobbly. As far as I know, the only thing we've got going on is for milestones is getting to $100 on our supporters, whether that's $100 per month, whether that's through Patreon, Locals, Subscribestar, or Direct Contact. Any of those work. Doing so gets you access to the Discord, which is yours to have access to as long as you want to. And I think that's everything as far as what we're doing. I will say that I'm heavily considering, once we hit 100, if the event for it doesn't come out and we start to go over 100, then I may just have to force myself to buy some metal dice custom made for giving away, you know? I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I'd have to we may have to get, Levi, that gag gift of a glass dice, a glass dice rolling tray.
And make him listen to it.
With metal dice. It says... Anyway.
Poor Levi.
Anyway, I'm getting along on our announcements. Dan, what do you got going on?
Hello, everyone. Avenue Studios, Dan here. We are on YouTube, podcasts, and Rumble, and we do TTRPG content, of course. The biggest thing we're doing is Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. We live stream, and for the themed month collaborations we're doing within the Planar Crossroads, we're going to be taking the ideas we talk about here on Around the Hearth and taking a few of them to implement into a one-shot that we build in Foundry Virtual Tabletop on our Force Forge live stream. And then at the end of the month, we'll run a live play of that module that mostly Jacob with Adam and myself helping as much as we can for that. And then, of course, we will have that available for you on the Forge so that you can use what we build and play your own games with it. Very much looking forward to that. And, of course, we'll have our other live streams going on. Our next one's in Savage Worlds, and it's a Fallout-based game, Nights in New Seattle. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And, yep. April 1st, Kanaga Movie Night. If you want to become a part of that, become a supporter at Avenue Studios. We're going to be doing a bunch of giveaways and watching a funny movie that I made in college. And it'll be great. And that's us for now. Jacob left me, but he's still in my heart. And hopefully we'll see him soon.
All right.
Those EMPs are taking out all our people.
Oh, no!
They are.
Speaking
taking
of
out
which,
Copper Dragon Gaming.
Yeah,
Who would have been here if not for that.
Definitely
First to fall to the EMP.
Well, he'll have to reboot his mech,
for us, right?
rewire some of the power couplings. I'm sure, all that stuff. So, anyway,
Love it.
that is what's serving as our spotlight right now, because these 30-minute segments, they get pretty tight trying to do all of the discussing we want to do. So, Let's go ahead and get into it. So,
Alright.
sit down by the fire, warm yourself by the hearth, and get your preferred beverage to sip on
Cool.
as we discuss the final fourth thing in our March of the Mechs, mixing scales and themes. All right. So, we've been discussing this kind of leading up into it, and there are many different sprinklings of things in our past discussions that you can probably hear a little bit of repeat here, but we're going to be expounding on those because there's a few things that are worth pointing out. Where we like the scale, I think we've kind of come to the idea that if you're doing like a characteristic mech thing, we kind of like the scale that Jacob put forward of 25 feet to a square. And that works well because a player character can still travel one square away from something or into the next square away from something should they get knocked out of their mech. And that allows some movement to still happen and still be dynamic with the infantry. So there you go. And assuming that, we discussed also from our previous discussions adding different qualities to weapons or things along that line, like anti-personnel or EMP or anti-tank or, what, anti-mech, any type of thing that would allow an infantry to attack directly onto a big power armor or large building type of mech. Once you get to ship-sized mechs like Macross or other things like these big crawler mechs and stuff, you start to lose a little bit of your effectiveness, but there's still options there should players want to mix around with that. And that's kind of what we're going to be discussing, is mixing all that up. So, did you guys have some place you wanted to specifically start with this idea of mixing different things together, different scale and themes together?
So,
There's so much. Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
I will start off with the thought that an important part of your mech's physical size scale is their relative power scale. Right? When you are interacting with those ship-size mechs, we are in that, non-relatable scale of power, in that, the power of your normal person stops mattering almost entirely. Right? Just I think my core point is viewing this as a general view of what power level and power scale you want to work with, right? Like if you're playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition and you're playing with the normal level scaling rules and you're level 15, anything that you ever cared about beforehand doesn't touch you, right?
Yeah.
Bears are not scary. A lot of dragons aren't scary. If an entire army of kobolds walks up to you, unless there's something special.
Unless they have prep time.
But or goblins. Normal level -1 goblins coming at you.
Yeah.
They literally cannot hit you. Almost. Maybe literally not, even with a crit. I'd have to do some math. Core point.
Right.
Is that this... I guess the point is that when it gets up that high, you lose some personability, but the distinction away from personability to each character is not a strictly bad thing. This idea that there are mountains moving and just a normal person cannot directly affect them without having an entire mission of you all scaling up its leg either into its power core or into its cockpit.
Mhm.
But viewing how you want to interact with power tells you the type of story you want to tell a lot of the time, and I think that's an important place to start for physical scale of mechs. That is the end point of this. I got distracted a lot of places along the way.
Well, building off that idea, too, the impersonability of it, we kind of touched on that last time when we talked about the idea of a player maybe controlling a squad, or perhaps the players were part of a squad and the mech was something they worked on to go into combat together with, type of thing. That takes away a lot of the... You're purposely making focused and weaker characters out of your humans, but the mechs have a full build in the system, perhaps, is how we kind of alluded to talking about it, if you're going for one singular system and not mixing systems like we talked about in the last chat. Go check that out if you are interested in that. So that's a viable way of doing it. And it does touch on how much focus do you want in this game on the individual over their efforts as a group. Because if each player is going to control a squad, perhaps, where they have like 3 to 5 weaker characters that are taking care of a single mech that goes into do missions, then you have that downtime with them, like we discussed, and then you have the mech going out and doing the combative type of stuff or the mission type of stuff. But they all feel like they're working together still. They're all still part of a team. And so the team aspect of it can actually be heightened and focused on. So there's an option for that. I think also an important thing to mention for this mixing of scales and themes is that remember that a lot of systems already have size differences built into their system mechanics. A tiny creature versus a gargantuan creature. That tiny creature, aside from magic, of course, is not going to do anything to a gargantuan creature. And that's the type of scale difference that you're looking at. That's the type of scale difference that you're looking at between a mech and a regular infantry medium-sized human. So those are things you can build upon. Those negatives and boosts to different things.
Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, go ahead. I have a different thought that can come up afterwards, after your thought.
Okay, yeah, sure, because this kind of going off of what Levi was talking about with the power scale, I think that's a really good point for thinking specifically about mixing scale, because it could be a way to also subvert an expectation in a fun way, where you have, say, going with Jacob's idea he's having of the 25 foot, so kind of like 2-story building or a little smaller sort of mechs. Most of the game you're playing in that, and all of a sudden you drop in, like referencing last video, the spider mech from Wild West. All of a sudden you throw that in, and we have something where even these huge mechs that are human characters felt so tiny compared to, like, the human characters can only move 1 square. Now, we had referenced this before, a mech is the map. And even the mechs we've been in are still on this map, which is a whole mech that they have to mess with. And playing with that could be really cool. Well, now, all of a sudden, this mech that felt so powerful is dwarfed and literally has to do something like Levi had talked about a little bit, I think it was 2 episodes ago, of what the groups could do on a whole mech, a map that is an entire mech, but you're mixing and matching that now, so it's your squad of players are all pilots in mechs, but now they got to work together to destroy this, like, Death Star size mech. And so you could mess with the players there by mixing the scales together.
And that makes for a lot of fun to be had too, because we've got aircraft carriers. Would you not, in a universe like that, have a mech carrier like the Zoids universe has the mech? Yeah, has the one that wheels around their mechs, and it's where they work on them and shop them up and stuff like that.
Right.
The original Gundam had their rolling fortress that was their base, and they would roll around the Earth doing Gundam stuff. I don't know the first Gundam one. I'm not very up on it. But back in the 70s, I don't go back to a lot of 70s anime. I'm sorry. All right? It's just me. I'm not against it. You can tell me your favorite down in the comments below.
Yeah.
So mixing scales, there's actually mechanics, like we're pointing out, there's mechanical ways to do that and build that in. And that is actually easier than it might first seem. And since we've talked about scale a little bit, shifting over, you can have those themes mixed differently too. One of those being like what Dan was talking about. You have those two scales different if a big spider mech rolls up on your Gundams, like from Wild Wild West, the big old spider mech would still be bigger than a lot of the Gundams. Well, it would be bigger than power armor and building size, some of the building sized Gundams. But you could also mix design and quote unquote creature type for the designs of your mechs, because some of the early Gundams had tank treads. Well, you can't trip a tank, right? So there's no way to attack the legs in that way. You would have to do it a different way. You would have to track the rails, the treads or something like that. And so you would change up that location-based damage, which, like we talked about last time, if you're playing a mech game, usually people have already bought into the idea of there being location-based damage for mechs. So that's not a crazy buy-in. But mixing that up can add a lot of flavor to something that people might think was kind of generic. Mix in that humanoid and those animal designs, and mix up mechs. Like there are distinct advantages to having treads over legs. Maybe you want to have 4 legs instead of, like spider-esque type of legs over just 2 legs for extra stability, but more mobility than a tread. And so you can play around with that, depending on how gritty and mechanical you want to get.
Yeah.
So
you could have a mecha-pede.
A mecha-pede. You'd have like those rolling fortresses from Mortal Engines or whatever it is. I don't know anything about the series, but I saw a picture and I was like, that's pretty cool. Like
I know less about the series because I don't know what you're imaging. I can't see it.
There's basically big cities rolling around on tank treads.
Oh, interesting. Kind of off of what you were saying, I was picturing actually the Halo series having the Covenant and Human are so very distinct in their style and design, and then the Covenant has energy weapons versus the humans have more physical...
Ballistic.
What do we want to say?
Ballistic,
thank you. Ballistic style. So that's something, too, where you could have different factions, and then you're starting to mix classic kind of mech, maybe steampunk or something, but then there's alien invasion, and they have this very different style to them. Their weapons are different. They might have a different tag, so there's going to be advantages to the ballistic versus the energy, depending on what you're facing, and trying to blend those together could be a whole part of the campaign. And then I was also thinking about, with mixing theme, like we had talked about EMPs not necessarily affecting humans, but if you start mixing in to your normal mech game some cyberpunk stuff, now all of a sudden humans might have some implants in there that would be more easily affected by EMPs.
True.
And so
which ties in the meat mech.
Right, yeah.
Because the meat mechs could also be completely unaffected by EMPs.
That's true.
In such a way that, like, if you have someone who's, like, tying in and working with wherever the meat mechs are from using EMPs, you have one of the most terrifying mixes, because now your mechs don't work against their mechs.
Right.
That's true.
That could be a really fun thing to build up to in the game.
All right. 2 things about flesh mechs, though. 1, the fuel for a flesh mech is very dubious, and the repairs it would need. And then, and then number 2 is it doesn't work scientifically because of how fast nerve tendons travel. You'd have to work some fancy smancy pseudoscience, but that's okay because it's pseudoscience.
We don't need strict pseudoscience.
Well, they've
we can
actually
just get into weirder stuff.
It's true. If you made it in your setting that there was some other conductor that was put forward in that physical body, that flesh, because as we see flesh right now, there's not really a way to get anything bigger. If you get much bigger than, if you get the size of a 2-story house, you run into the problem where the nerve impulses don't travel fast enough for you to be as fast as you should be. Well,
and this is where we get into stuff of like octopus-style brains in other parts of your body,
which is optional. Yeah, that is a way you could work it. You could work like a relay of brains, but you're going to have to source those human brains to relay that.
Oh, well, but you're assuming meat mechs being made by people as opposed to meat mechs being a type of creature.
A type of sentient creature, you mean?
Interesting.
Right. In this case, so there's a couple possibilities, right? We have, a weird symbiotic relationship of, these meat mech things being next to no personal will, but can kind of run on their own when they want to. With some other...
so they, survive in an animalistic way when
on their own.
No pilots are there? Okay.
But, they have, developed or been changed or something along with some other pilot species.
I suppose you could do something similar to what was done with Avatar and the Na'vi, how they have a tendril that they interface with other animals with. That gets kind of weird, though. I never did like that. I never did like that.
Farscape with the pilot and ship is kind of similar.
Though,
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. All right.
Now, I will say, too, on Attack on Titan, they did throw out some of the characters could... This is getting into the more pseudo-magical, because Flesh Mech, but spread his consciousness throughout the whole body, therefore surviving getting his head blown off, because he had spread himself out over the whole body. So, anyway, but disregardless, as we like to say.
Disregardless. Right. Okay.
And also, Flesh Mechs could just be magical.
Yes, you can just do magical mechs. Right. There's flesh melding in, the Drow would be really big on that. Dark Elf. Ooh. Dark Elf spaceships.
Like a giant flesh warp.
Yep.
Like a flesh warp of flesh warps.
Oh, that would work. They'd fit right in with the elder brains and the, in fact, what was it? I can't believe we didn't bring this up yet. Spelljammer. There's an idea. There's living ships in that you can look at. I actually have a suggestion I have an idea for the one-shot mission thing that is going to be done for Avenue Studios. So this is my pitch.
Yeah. Okay.
We can showcase what we've been talking about with scale and choosing a theme and then mixing those themes with this type of a situation. You have purposefully lower tech mechs that are being sent out, this merc group maybe, or the military itself, depending on how Jacob wants to do it. It'd probably work really well for a quick in and out merc operation, like a subcontracted group. They're going in to destroy, I don't know, a base or something like that is housing a emergent AI. It's not, because we don't have AI right now, we have machine learning. This is an actual emergent AI, so it is near future, so you don't have to play too crazy with the tech. It doesn't have to be super advanced to where it would just blow out anything that came against it. But they purposefully have to take in low-tech mechs to deal with it. Like, you could do diesel punk or steampunk or something along that line. Or it could be Tesla punk if you want to keep the electricity. But actually doing something with a steampunk or a diesel punk would be better, because this thing has to be taking out, is not fully shielded itself yet. You're getting in there before the AI actually finishes becoming a full-fledged AI really to spread to the rest of the system. So going in and doing that. And that lets you mix two different types of mechs. Like, this AI may be building things to defend itself, and it's sending them out against you because it knows that you're coming to get it, but it has to finish doing its own thing. And, you can play with that there. And he can still build a world with it.
That's a really cool setting, too, of, like, now these old school diesel punk style. It's hard to find the pilots, and there you have your PCs, your specialty people are the ones that still know how to operate these old school ones that cannot be hacked, because it's all levers and moving around and dealing with the diesel punk. And
yeah, and you can still have some electronics in there and stuff like that to manage some of that in your own fiction, because they just can't have connectivity. They can't have Wi-Fi. They can't have those type of things, those Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, those things that are so convenient for us. So basically you're saying a 90s style tech mech versus an emergent AI type of mech. And that thing's fully connected. So the EMPs are very effective against it, but you need mechs and machines that are going to be with easily insulated to the machine, the EMPs you're using, or outright immune to them, because they are mechanical. Much less.
Right.
They take up a lot more space, but they would also be able to not get EMP'd.
Yeah, and that could allow for going for even more mixing scale of needing to have pilots, or not even necessarily pilots, but needing to have some human counterparts that are going into to hack, maybe even cyberpunky feel to hack this AI, because you still need to deal with that high level computer stuff as well. The mechanical mechs can take care of the punching and smashing, but someone's also got to deal with all of that other stuff, because sometimes those AI, the mechs that the AI made are going to be more advanced, and you've got to somehow kind of bring their power level down and still fight on that same level while also coming in at the mechanical level to avoid some of their abilities. So that could be a cool way to have humans actually serve a purpose. Like, a human character could actually serve a purpose in this, but they're super squishy.
Literally.
Literally. That's interesting.
Okay. I would like to make 2 quick quibbles.
Okie dokie.
Quibble 1. In AI research, what you're talking about as an AI is what's referred to as an AGI, which is an artificial general intelligence, which is like human-style intelligence where you can, like, think about broad problems. Machine learning is considered an AI because it can artificially replicate some amount of intelligence. Right, the ability to remember things and respond to new input with memories, as opposed to just responding weirdly, and, like, learn things and otherwise, is considered a, like, type of intelligence, so it is technically an AI, but not in the way we mean when we say it in sci-fi. Quibble 2. Part of the reason we don't have mechs right now is because there's a lot of mechanical issues with them that are easy to exploit, but they're real cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is diving off the idea of rule of cool. Because mechs are, like you said,
but
not
you were
very
talking
efficient.
about meat mechs being pseudoscience-y.
Well, they are.
So
So
exactly. My point was that mechs are similarly, like, just structurally weaker than, like, tank-style things. They just look cooler to humans, because human shape.
Well, you can still do the tank treads. That might be something fun, too.
Yeah, but it's not that. But also the arms are, like, another weak point.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean.
It's a quick quibble. It's
right.
We are playing in Rule of Cool, but I'm saying MeeP Mech does the same thing. It's just weirder, so it breaks immersion a little easier.
Right. Well, when facing another machine, though, it might be useful to have arms in some form or sense.
Yeah.
So,
but we like the humanoid E5 because it makes us feel better.
I mean, yeah, if you're going for that for vibe's sake. But being able to grip things is really nice.
Yeah, but they're not usually going to be like mech-style arms. They're going to be like clamps.
Give them the clamps.
And like, well, just if you look at like machine stuff, they don't do like hands.
Well, that's because hands are hard.
They're hard and they're easier to break than just clamps. They can be. Depends if they're made of metal or not, I guess. No, but okay, so if we have a clamp made out of metal and a hand made out of metal, just from like a general machine building standpoint, there are more pieces, so there are more points of failure, so it breaks easier and is harder to fix. Now, hands give you a lot of detailed control.
Right. Which is what I'm assuming you would give them to him for in real life. But this is also going past. Because
it was supposed to just be a quick thing.
Okay, Quibbles acknowledged.
Yep. Enjoy the Rule of Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does give a point to what Jacob wants to do in having the injury tables like we talked about, and these are weak points, and you could add that in, like Adam had mentioned before with the treads, like maybe you decide not to do legs and you put some treads, kind of balancing between Rule of Cool and reality sort of stuff. You could have a lot of fun with that, especially doing the injury table and focusing on directed location hits. So playing with that, and maybe the AI tended to make more humanoid, and so there's advantage and disadvantage to the diesel pump, which might
the imitation of other living life trying to find itself. Mm-hmm.
Well, and like AIs are built by, and then like the data they have to look at to assess the world comes from humans. So like our current like machine learning like inherits our biases because it learns from us.
Right. That could be a cool moment where you have a diesel punk mech that just has clamps. It can't really do any fine motor stuff, but
it can crush your kneecaps.
Yeah, it can grab that AI-operated mech that looks like a human and just break the legs off. And that's all it needs to do.
Yep.
But meanwhile, the AI could literally climb onto that mech and start ripping parts out because it has, it has digits. You could have some, again, within the range of Rule of Cool, have some fun with that.
Yeah, one could, with fine motor movement, you could do grappling in a much more nuanced way. So the more advanced mech, the more advanced dexterous mech would be viable in that. Humans, the design of the human body makes it very, very useful for an intelligence. So it is assuming that the thing that is piloting it is intelligent, it will apply itself in appropriate ways to take advantage of that. That's why physically, even though we're not stronger than other things like cows are way stronger than humans. And they could wreck you anytime they wanted, but they don't, because they don't have the intelligence to organize and then make things and do things like we do. So They weren't made with that intelligence. It means that this mech, with this one, you're wanting to be the bull running around in the china shop. I know they did an experiment where they let a bull into the china shop. He didn't really break much. That's not the point. You want to be the bull in the china shop that is wrecking all the stuff with your mech. That's kind of the point of going in to get this AI. Because you want to stop it. You want to get to the main core of it that hasn't been able to reach out to anything that has connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Skynet, all right? It's not like when you watch Terminator, whatever it was, Terminator Genesis, or no, whatever it was, where there's stupid, where they had this machine to hack a truck and drive it around. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. Truck. It was a standard. it was a standard shift. No. Whatever. Skynet.
Whatever. It doesn't matter.
Anyway.
No, I really like that though. That's a great idea with mixing theme, mixing scale.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So, any final notes for mixing scale and things like that?
I think I'll just say that it can be a really fun tool to kind of switch things around suddenly, give a little twist to your story. Like we talked about with the giant, having the normal scale of mechs going to a giant thing, or something like suddenly introducing a flesh mech out of nowhere. It's something you can build up to in your story and really throw, if handled well, a nice narrative twist into the story and really shake things up and keep the players on their toes. So try it out, have fun, comment below what you think or what you've done before. I'd love to hear what people have done with that.
All right.
How about if what we have said has been inspiring or helpful towards you building something of the sort?
Mm-hmm. We want to know if you took Levi's idea from last time and ran 2 different systems, or if you tried to do it in the same system. That'd be interesting to know too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then my final thought is, well, when you're mixing up your scales and themes, the rule of cool does play a thing in it, but also don't be afraid to try and weave everything in together at the same time, because that cohesive story can make it so much fun to realize the things that have been done up to this point, like going back to whether you want to play Zoids where it's a competition or something like that, and then throwing out there this new prototype or something like that. Makes a lot of fun for the players. And they could, you could always play around with it. Or you could do what I said last time and have a human with cybernetic implants like Brick get some nice power armor upgrades, go full Hulk Buster, and have a power armor sized thing. I'm just throwing that out there, Ryan. I'm just throwing that out there. So go ahead and mix up those scales as much as you want.
You gotta bribe a GM to get that sort of thing.
Well, the problem is the GM controls the NPC that would be making it, and I'm pretty sure that NPC already wants to make it now. So I'm planting seeds for you, Ryan. Anyway, that's what I've got. As always.
Love it.
Yes. So we hope you have enjoyed. Do remember that if you want to support the In a Planar Crossroads or Avenue Studios, you can do so through Patreon, locals, and contacting us directly. So, enjoy that. Check out Copper Dragon Gaming, who we regret could not be here, but hopefully in the next chat, him and perhaps another channel will be able to join us. So,
Sweet.
as always, have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It came through fine. Everybody was recorded.
Yay.
It's an important start.
Yeah. I would hate to think that we got to like the third one and nothing was recorded. That would be very annoying.
That'd be a little cruel.
Understatement.
All right. So,
Okay, breathe in fizz. Okay, I'm good.
okie dokie.